sorry to be here. We all have to balance more than one committee. So, but I've looked at your statement and looked at some of the information that's been provided. Given where we currently are from a fiscal standpoint here in the United States, I think the handwriting's on the wall that there are a lot of things we would like to do, but we're not able to afford to do them. And so I was surprised when the number came out under the President's budget request that there's a significant, in fact, $3.12 billion increase over this fiscal year's budget. But, and obviously this is true for a lot of the agencies. My question is, I think the handwriting's on the wall here that these numbers are not going to be available to you. And I see the projections here about the significant increases in a whole number of programs. From 2010, I don't have the 2008 comparisons for what's been increased over the last 2 years, but you know, just on energy efficiency, 45.6% plus up there, and as you go through the various categories, I know there are some offsets, but overall, we're looking at a budget which is probably not going to be realized. So my question to you is does the department, do you and the department have a plan B? A plan B which is going to have to deal with a much lower number, and how are you going to prioritize where to spend that money? What kind of management decisions are you going to have to make in terms of personnel, in terms of commitment of resources? I'm very skeptical about government's ability to successfully pick winners and avoid the losers. Market always gets in the way of those decisions. So we're at a very difficult time, and that's going to put a lot of responsibility on your and every agency, every cabinet department, in terms of coming in at that lower number. So have you analyzed that in terms of where would we go if what appears to be the reality of the funds that are going to be available for this next fiscal year don't come in anywhere near where it's projected?
Sure. First, I think in the budget presented by the President, there were some tough decisions made, as the President pointed out, that this is...
Yeah, but the overall is a very significant increase.
Oh, that's right. So, there were two agencies that got increases, education and energy, because it was felt, and every other agency had decreases or it been held the same. The overall budget was flat, and he was calling for a 5-year just stopping the increases for 5 years. Okay, so now, so that's something that was, you know, since the Eisenhower administration, that was the first time a President has proposed a budget like that, and for the outgoing years. So difficult choices were made. We think that the administration thinks, the President thinks that the reason why education and energy were receiving increases during these very tough budget times, and I agree with you, I recognize that in the coming 4, 5, 6 years that there will be huge demands to show fiscal restraint and to try to get back to a balanced budget. I absolutely agree with that, and it's important. But the reason we're making those investments is this is about the future next year, the following year, and the years to follow, that to put America in the best competitive position, this is what we need to do. I'm reminded of a expression a friend of mine, Norm Augustine, wrote. He was a chair and CEO, former chair and CEO of Lockheed Martin.
Yeah, a friend of mine also, and a wise man.
Yes, great. And so you know, I served on that committee, Rise Above the Guiding Storm, with him. And since that time, he's become a friend. He became the chair of my advisory board at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. He's on the Secretary of Energy Advisory Board. A very wise man. He said, in times of fiscal austerity, and we are in those times today, from his experience at Lockheed Martin, the last thing you want to do is to decrease your research and development budget. It's like you're designing an airplane, the plane is overweight, And what do? Well, you don't take off an engine to reduce the weight problem. And so it's difficult choices. Now, if in the wisdom of Congress it turns out that we won't get our full budget, I would be glad to work with Congress, and we do have a priority of things. But again, this really is about winning the future, and that's why those tough decisions were made, and the other agencies got significant cuts.
I understand that about winning the future, and I think that is where investment ought to go, particularly at basic research level, not necessarily the applied research level, because again, I have great skepticism over the political process's ability to make the right selection. I had the opportunity to live and serve in Germany for 4 years, and they made political decisions about how much mandatory wind and sun had to be produced by a certain fixed date, and a lot of places found that the sun didn't shine as much as they thought, or the wind would blow as hard as they thought. And then the political process always raises its ugly fist, because it turned out that most of the politicians representing various geographic areas of the country had to get their share, even though the statistics showed that from a wind standpoint, it blew a lot harder in somebody else's district than it did down south, and the sun shone more down south than it did up north, but everybody had to get their panels and their money for solar and wind. And it seems to me that the political process often intercedes in a way that distorts the correct application of the funds. So I'm not here to tell you how to fix that or deal with that. I just think 2 points I want to make is it's likely that you'll be called on to do less, to do more with less. And if so, hopefully there's a plan in place and a set of priorities that you can share with us in terms of where you think that is best applied. And secondly, to the extent that we can get the decision process out of the political process, and I'm not just saying out of your department, I'm also pointing the finger at us, and get the needed dollars of research that will be investments for the future settled in a non-political, more market-directed way, which, as you know, capital will follow subsidies, and we can make decisions even though the market, even those putting up private money think that's the wrong decision or has reservations. It'll follow the subsidy, and then potentially dries up capital where it could have been applied more efficiently. In any event, I look forward to working with you on this committee and everyone on this committee and the chairman and others in helping work through that process.
All right. Thank you.
We've all had a chance to ask 5 minutes of questions. Let me go back around for those who